Hello, Pioneer viewers. We continue to share with you the most noteworthy developments in the shadow of war. Intelligence reports that occasionally come to light reveal the hidden face of this war and the psychology of the soldiers. In particular, the statements made by wounded Russian soldiers on the front lines offer thought-provoking clues about the course of the war. Recent conversations recorded by Ukrainian intelligence actually reveal one of the starkest realities of the war. The moments when wounded soldiers confess their fears, helplessness, and unwillingness to fight on the front lines paint a picture that is dramatically opposed to the Kremlin's official rhetoric. These voices, which normally would never reach the outside world, reveal how devastating the war is and the growing discontent within the Russian army. Such recordings are not just dialogues, they also carry clues about the army's morale, the soldiers' motivation, and possible future developments. Because war is not won only with tanks, rockets, and ammunition. The soldiers' state of mind, belief, and will also play a decisive role. If soldiers on the front lines dream of returning home instead of fighting, this could be a turning point that fundamentally affects the course of the war. Let's take a look at the developments together. The Pioneer is back. Don't forget that you can support us by subscribing and liking our videos in celebration of our return. A new radio recording revealing the difficulties faced by the Russian army on the battlefield has been released to the public by the Main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine. This recording clearly shows not only the physical condition of Russian soldiers on the battlefield, but also their low morale and the deep discontent they experience with their commanders. The recording obtained by Ukrainian intelligence features wounded Russian soldiers speaking helplessly. One of the most striking statements in the recording is a soldier describing his health problems. "There are 2 years between the three of us," says the soldier, indicating that he and the other soldier next to him are seriously wounded and unable to fight. Soldiers suffering from concussions, unable to move their arms, and experiencing hearing loss rebel against being sent to the front lines in this condition. However, the response from their commanders laid bare the hierarchical pressure within the Russian army. The commander, unconcerned about the health of his subordinates, repeatedly emphasized in a loud voice that they must go to the coordinates they had been given. "Why did you flee from the forest where you were supposed to be? I gave you a clear order. Grab your equipment and go there immediately," shouted the commander, essentially sending the wounded soldiers to their deaths. This conversation was one of the latest examples reflecting the Russian army's helplessness and the loss of motivation among soldiers. The impact of Ukraine's unmanned aerial vehicles, dubbed Baba Yaga, on the front lines is also evident in this recording. The soldier clearly expresses the pressure of Ukraine's modern drone technology on Russian troops, saying, "Baba Yagas put us in a difficult position everywhere." This situation emerges as a factor that fundamentally changes the nature of the war. The soldiers' refusal to listen to their commanders and severing contact is one of the most critical points of the incident. According to Ukrainian intelligence, wounded Russian soldiers chose to flee rather than return to their duty area after the radio transmission. This points to a growing problem in the Russian army: insubordination and desertion. In recent months, Ukrainian intelligence has revealed numerous records indicating that Russian soldiers have lost trust in their commanders. Inadequate medical care, heavy losses, and constant pressure to be sent to the front lines have created significant unrest among soldiers. Ukrainian officials state that such conversations are not coincidental but rather reflect the general atmosphere within the Russian army. The soldiers message that "We don't want to fight" proves not only that morale at the front has collapsed, but also that Russia's military strategy is in serious trouble, particularly in a war that has been going on for a long time. Sending new soldiers to the front is becoming increasingly difficult for Russia. The fact that even the wounded are being forced back into combat rather than being withdrawn shows the extent of the personnel shortage. The unmanned aerial vehicles developed by Ukraine and widely used on the front lines have become one of the biggest threats to Russian troops. Known as Baba Yaga, these UAVs are used effectively in many areas, from night operations to detecting trenches. The fact that Russian soldiers constantly complain about these UAVs in their radio communications proves that Ukraine has gained a significant advantage in the technological dimension of the war. The Russian army's operations, conducted using classic methods, face great difficulties in the face of this new technology. Ukraine's small but effective drone units can even neutralize Russia's heavy armored vehicles. As a result, soldiers on the front lines constantly feel under surveillance and threatened by attack. This radio recording shared by Ukraine hints at the possibility of small scale rebellions within the Russian army growing. Soldiers disobeying their commander's orders and choosing to flee indicates that the chain of command is beginning to break down. An increase in such incidents could lead to Russia suffering greater losses in the war. According to experts who clearly monitor soldier psychology, low morale and fatigue are factors that directly affect the course of the war. As Russian soldiers refuse to fight under a chain of command that abandons them to death, their effectiveness on the front lines diminishes. This gives the Ukrainian army a significant advantage. The release of this radio recording also attracted international attention. Western experts say that Russia is unable to compensate for its personnel losses and is forcing its soldiers to the front. The fact that even wounded soldiers are being sent to combat duty confirms that the Russian army is experiencing a serious human resources crisis. Furthermore, the frequent appearance of such recordings in the international media is further damaging Russia's image. The Kremlin's propaganda efforts to portray a high-spirited, disciplined army directly contradicts these radio conversations. The phrase, "there are 2 years between the three of us," has become a symbol of the profound helplessness experienced on the front lines. The image of an army struggling with health issues, psychologically broken, and no longer heeding their commander's orders clearly illustrates the deadlock Russia faces. This radio recording is not just the story of a few soldiers, it is also a reflection of the devastating effect that more than 3 years of war has had on the Russian army. Ukraine's struggle, waged with modern warfare methods, is increasingly rendering Russia's traditional strategies ineffective. So, what do you think? Do you think there is any chance that the situation Russian soldiers find themselves in will improve? How do you interpret the friction between Russian soldiers and Russian commanders? Please share your thoughts in the comments. We read and value your points of view.